The study was actually in 3 parts. This is for adult study with classic congenital adrenal hyperplasia CAHtalyst study. And the 3 parts of the study included double-blind placebo control part, which was about 24 weeks. Then we had open label period, which extended up to 12 months. And beyond that, patients had an option to participate in open label extension. And the data that we will be talking about focuses on a 24-month time period. Yeah, so glucocorticoids have a lot of side effects, especially if they're taken in excessive amounts and for long periods of time, but also when they're given in reverse circadian rhythm pattern, and that means that patients are getting glucocorticoids in the evening or bedtime. So that's when they are shown to cause a lot of adverse effects on metabolic outcomes. That includes weight gain, increased prevalence of obesity and overweight. Also, we are seeing issues with hypertension, hyperlipidemia, insulin resistance. And then also from glucocorticoids, the negative effects would be on the bone. So we see osteoporosis, osteopenia, decreased bone mass, and fragility fractures. So what we observed is that at 24 months, actually, 71% of patients were able to achieve physiologic glucocorticoid dose replacement. And that was usually defined as hydrocortisone equivalent less than 11 milligram per meter square per day. So that was definitely a significant and very meaningful finding, but it's not just about the glucocorticoid dose reduction. It's again also keeping in mind that patients started off on a very high doses of glucocorticoids, and with that, not only they were able to either improve or maintain their androstenedione levels at goal, but they were also able to do that with reducing glucocorticoids by at least 25%, but again, 71% of them achieved physiologic replacement. This is actually a very good question, because when we are representing the data, it's important to know the methods behind it and also how it was analyzed. So I wanted to actually explain what those 2 terms mean. So first one is when we looked at androstenedione levels, and with glucocorticoid doses, say if the patients were able to reduce glucocorticoid but their androstenedione level worsened, then that dose reduction was imputed to 0, meaning those patients reduced the dose but they were imputed to 0. So that's when it's adjusted glucocorticoid dose reduction. Now, looking at observed glucocorticoids, that's actually just what we were observing at 24 months. And the reason for this is because between 12 and 24 months, the investigators had the ability to adjust glucocorticoid doses up or down based on their clinical decision making. So that represents more of a real world type of setup when we are actually deciding when to lower glucocorticoids, as opposed to being driven by the forced titration per protocol. So I would say that when we are talking about observed dose, then we are not imputing glucocorticoid dose reduction to 0. We are just kind of letting that investigator and their patient decide based on the lab values, tolerability, any other issues that they may have to adjust glucocorticoid dose. So that's the difference between imputed glucocorticoid dose reduction and observed glucocorticoid dose reduction. The way I would say just think about it is that more real world data would be the observed glucocorticoid dose reduction. So I would like to observe that actually we are able to maintain this glucocorticoid dose reduction long term, that this is not just a short term type of observation we are seeing. Then also I want to see improvements in patients' weight, blood pressure measurements, as well as body composition changes that are favorable, as well as improvements in insulin resistance and any negative metabolic outcomes that we are observing with high doses of glucocorticoids. In terms of quality of life, I have an expectation and hope that we are able to improve quality of life of patients who have low quality of life at the beginning of the study. And say if the patient started with good quality of life, I hope that we are not worsening it, that it stays good at the end of the study. Crinecerfont is a new medication. It's a novel first-in-class in terms of the mechanism of action of CRF1 receptor antagonist. So I would say that in the real world, we have to be very aware of that this is a new medication and pay close attention to any side effects. If there is anything new that is becoming more aware, we are becoming more aware in a clinical practice, that we are also reporting that. Because in the study, we were monitoring patients closely, but it's still relatively limited by looking, say, 2-year data. We overall did not observe any concerning safety signals or concerning any safety concerns, even at 24 weeks. Sorry. Overall, we did not observe any concerning safety issues, even at 24-month data. There were several incidences of adrenal insufficiency, adrenal crisis. So again, just emphasizing the importance of educating the patients on how to prevent and treat adrenal insufficiency and crisis. We also observed one fatal event in a patient who was on an extended open label extension period, and that was in a setting of cholestasis with bacterial infection. And the investigator judged that event to be unlikely related to Crinecerfont. But again, that's clinical trial data. Once we are implementing this medication in the real world, I would suggest that we have to be very vigilant, and I always advocate for making one change at a time. Brand new medication, I would say start with that first, observe that patient, check their levels, see how they're doing, then potentially consider glucocorticoid dose reduction if that's applicable in a patient.